momentum of looking forward that's gotten you where you are, but then you're like, I want to savor this. This is, as you said, a place that I once dreamt of.
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's very easy to get greedy with, I want to go further, I want to go further, I want to do more, and always feel like you're not doing enough, you're not being enough. This actually not being enough has been one of my biggest problems, like always feeling like I need to do more, I need to be more to be enough.
That's adorable. No better way to step into episode 12 than by having the lovely Melissa Bonny on the show. Melissa's early life, her family summer vacations in small town Switzerland set her up for an early, honest road. She learned important life skills early at a steady reception job before joining the army in preparation for the police force. Things were on a very stable track, but luckily Melissa had bigger plans. An incident in the army put things clear in her mind, and she knew chasing her dreams to become a singer was the only way forward. She got a taste of life on stage with her first band as she danced between the two worlds until eventually she went all in and never looked back. This is a story of how one woman's gifts for the world almost stayed hidden in a police uniform. I'll be sharing my reflections after the podcast, but until then, sit back and enjoy the adventure of Melissa Bonny. Melissa, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Switzerland, in a little village close to Montreux. Spent most of my life there actually, and so it's right in between the lake and the mountains.
Wow, that sounds incredible. What's it like growing up there?
Um, it was very peaceful and very small, and yeah, very healthy, a very healthy upbringing.
Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a little brother. He's like this, but a younger brother. He is, how old is he now? I think he's 28. Cannot keep track anymore. And yeah, he's doing a little bit of music, but he's more into cars. So we're very different in that sense.
And how was it growing up together? You guys quite close?
Um, Not so much. I think our relationship was more, I wanted to go out with my friends to play, and my mom was like, "Bring your little brother," and I was like, "Okay." But we had a lot of time together. We were rollerblading, we were playing GameCube, Mario Kart mostly. So yeah, in that sense, we spent a lot of time together.
Wow, that's beautiful. And how was the dynamic? Good relationship with both your parents?
Um, I mean, I moved away quite a while ago now. I live in Denmark, and it's a different relationship than when you live nearby. So we have a long distance relationship. My father actually passed away last year, so it's fairly different now. But we have a good relationship, and they're very supportive of everything both my brother and I are doing, and they are very much into the music side of, yeah, of everything I'm doing.
Wow, that's incredible. And growing up, would you mainly stay there, or would you go on trips and family vacations?
Yeah, so the tradition was to go every year in the summer to south of France. We would just drive, start in the middle of the night. My father would drive um, many hours, and then there was this house that we would always rent, which was very close to a house that some friends would rent, and we would spend our summers there, going to the beach, having, going to the arcade by the harbor and play together and go hunt for those little those little what's the name of this little animal that lives in the sands? um I know the name in French, but I don't know the name in English. It
Like a
lives in a
crab?
little shell. No, it's not a crab. It's like tiny like this, and it's like a mini crab.
Or like a hermit, like
Yeah,
with the big.
exactly.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
that one.
Oh, that's great. So you spend the summers there and just exploring and enjoying
Yeah.
the south of France. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, what an experience. And did this happen every summer? Was this just a regular sort of
Yeah. Yeah, so that
event?
was the tradition since we were very little. Every summer there would be a 2 to 3 weeks block where we knew, here we go, we're taking the trip. So obviously, I remember being unable to sleep because being very excited and knowing that we would wake up early, like usually 4 in the morning, pack the car. I mean, the car was already packed, but like get our bags, get in the car and drive. I was horribly car sick, so my grandmother would give me a little bouquet of parsley, which I'm not sure it worked. I hated it. I still threw up. Doesn't matter. But yeah, and that's really that was a tradition every year. Yeah.
Wow, sounds magical. And so having these traditions and sounds like the tight family unit, how was it then going into high school? Were you kind of exploring different creative avenues and with the support of your family?
So I did the. It's interesting because my path shifted further in life. Um, I did the normal school that you have until like 15. When I graduated, I went to an apprenticeship. I did an apprenticeship. I was working in an office. So not at all what I'm doing right now, but I feel like it still helped a lot when it comes to all the administrative side of my job. Like I learned accounting, like the proper ways of communication and so on. So this is not that was not my goal, but it's still something that I'm using today. And I did this for 3 years. I was longing for something else. Like I wanted to do music and I was doing music on the side, but I had this understanding that it would not be possible to do it professionally. So yeah, I did this apprenticeship and then I went on working in offices for a while before I decided to shift to a musician career.
Was that your understanding, or was it kind of the environment you grew up in kind of creating that belief?
Yeah, so it's kind of both. When I think I remember clearly mentioning to my parents when I was very young that I wanted to be a singer, and they were like, "Yeah, or maybe you can get a more stable and real job." And it was said with a lot of love, of course, because they just wanted me to have a stable life and no worries about money and anything like this. So from that moment on, I kind of thought, okay, this is just not for people who grew up in a small village in Switzerland. Like I was looking at those American movies and I was like, okay, so those are the people who can do whatever I want to do. It's not possible for me in Switzerland. And actually, to a certain extent, it was kind of true, but kind of not, because when I decided to shift in a musician career, I also left Switzerland because at first it was very difficult um, to live in Switzerland but make a salary of a European musician. It's very different. Like I was not playing in Switzerland, I was playing in Europe. So the salaries were very different and I understood this very quick and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna move.
I mean, that's incredible awareness, really. You kind of see that there's limitations within the space you are, and then extending out further. I mean, what was, just to go back a little bit, what was that feeling like starting the apprenticeship? Kind of knowing that in the back of your mind, singing is something you want to aspire to be, but kind of putting it into like a logical form takes a bit of the magic away, I think.
It, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something creative. So I did, like, when you're at school, you can do 1 week in a company before you actually choose your path. Like, I think it's maybe a year before you finish school. And I went to a company that's doing graphic design. And I thought, great, because then I can draw, And I think I didn't have a clear understanding of, like, how different it can be from one company to another. And this company was doing like packaging for cereals or butter or whatever. And so everything was on the computer, and it was not what I imagined. It was not me drawing anything. I didn't have the understanding that if I had tried, in a company that's doing animation for movies, for example, it would be different. Or so I just went for whatever was available in my area. And then again, I was a bit like, okay, that's not what I imagined. And I kind of went for the safe roads, which was what my dad did as well, um, which was just like an apprenticeship of like office worker, where you learn all the different, HR, accounting, reception, whatever, and then you specialize. It was just like, it felt like, oh, this is a natural continuation rather than a choice.
Mm. And so, coming up to the end of the 3 years, what was then the choice to do something different, and what did you do?
After those 3 years, I found a place where I could continue to work, and then I was like, this is not really what I want to do. I think I want to try to get into the police academy and to give myself more chances. I was like, you know what? Maybe if I do the army in Switzerland, then I have some kind of parallel training that is valuable when I apply for the police academy. So I applied for the army. I was recruited. I stayed there for um, a while. And then, as music was taking more space in my life, and a couple of things also happened that were that that kind of switched my understanding of how things would be with that kind of job. I just decided, okay, if I pursue this, music is over, because I'm not gonna have all the weekends for shows. I'm not gonna be able to go on tour. So while I was there, I withdrew my application for the police academy. I quit the army. I also injured my back, and that didn't help. And at the same time, which actually was one of the deciding factors. I'm not sure if it's maybe too much information for this discussion, but like, um we there was one day where we went we were divided by sections within the army school. I don't know what the name in English is. And I was in the firefighter section, and some of the others went to the shooting range. And um an accident happened after the shooting range. I say accident, but it was voluntary. This person decided to take his life with one of the weapons that we had. And it just like made me realize what I would be confronted to with that kind of job. And so this plus the music, I just decided that the like music was my calling, and I would not be able to compromise with those two worlds together.
Wow, what a crossroad! I mean, because to be in the army, to to create preparation to then go into the police force, and then coming to that point and fork in the road where it's, from an example as you just said, to and obviously the understanding that your freedoms will be completely taken away, it that sounds like an incredible crossroad in your life.
Yeah. I think it's at that moment that I started to make some decisions that were more based on what I want rather than what I should do to, pursue a safe path.
Just out of curiosity, how old were you at this stage?
20, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Wow. So it's
maybe just before, maybe 19, 18, 19 actually, I think. Yeah.
wow. I mean, that's a lot of personal development from leaving school to then the office work to then military, and then to have be
Yeah.
on your path at an early age, but through making the right choices for yourself is really quite incredible.
I always kind of feel like I lived a few lives already by now.
Amazing. So now you've made this decision. What were the next steps that you actually took?
Um, so when I left the army, I went to Ireland for 3.5 months. I wanted to do the advanced certificates, like the Cambridge advanced certificates, and I mean to learn English better, both for potential jobs and for music. At this point, I was still working in offices, so I did both. Sometime in Ireland, sometime in Germany for both languages. And it's at that time that I started to kind of do more music. I joined my first band around that time as well. Um, yeah, and I just started to take some steps towards um, being more serious with music.
What was it like being in your first band?
It was incredible because, until then I had just done like covers on YouTube and like a couple of shows ever, school show and nothing very impressive. So with this first band, I went to the studio for the first time. I went on real stages for the first time. So that really gave me this hunger for more. Um, we were playing in obviously in the area where we were living, and then we started to expand to go to like the German speaking part of Switzerland. Then we went to, I think we went to France or Belgium, I don't remember, but we started to play further and further away from home. And there were some of the local bands who started to support the big names in the industry, and we were like, let's do this, like let's make this happen.
Wow. Well, do you feel that you were a natural when you got up on stage? Were you still nervous? Like how does like go? Because I mean, the sounds of like you've manifested this, and made the right choice for yourself. Now you're up on stage. Like, what was that like first ever gig like?
At first, I was really nervous, but mostly when there were people I knew in the crowd. Um, this was mortifying for me. Like, if my parents would join or if my brother would join, this would be the thing that scares me. And I still feel this part of myself in different situations. For example, when it comes to languages, like now I'm in Denmark and I'm learning Danish, but I feel much more comfortable speaking to a stranger than speaking to someone I know. So that was the same with music. Um, when we started playing, we had shows where our parents were coming, and that was a little stressful, but then it got better. And then the big moment of stress was when we started playing real venues. So we had this opportunity to support Lacuna Coil at Z7, and Z7 is like one of the venues you want to play when you're a growing band in Switzerland or a small band in Switzerland. And um our manager at the time was like, hey guys, I had this opportunity for you guys. It was, I don't know, it was Monday, and they were like, what about playing at Z7 supporting Lacuna Coil on Saturday? And we're like, okay. And we got the gig, and I remember getting a cramp in my leg right before getting on stage. I couldn't walk. And I had never had this before. So that was like one of the moments where that I will remember forever, where really I felt like, oh my God, this is it. We're actually doing this. And then it got better by just doing it more and more. But no, I'm not a natural born uh, entertainer. I'm not. I don't know. It's something I learned.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so, how long did you play with this particular band for?
Um, I want to say 5 years. I'm not entirely sure. I think 5 years from 2012 to 2018.
Were you developing your sound throughout this time? And was it like, I mean, it kind of sounds like its own apprenticeship because you're really coming through the ranks and playing at all these incredible venues, prestigious venues within the growing scene. So, how did your personal development grow in that period?
Um, I think like everything we did, we took something away from it. Like we learned from it. Um, with this band, the band I joined it. They were already uh playing and making music. Um, and but together we learned to write music, record music. None of us had been in a studio before. Um, and to just become performers as well. Um, it's something like if you compare the first videos of us performing and the last ones, or what we're doing now with my current projects, uh it's different people. It's something that it's you learn how to move on stage, you learn how to perform, you learn how to talk to the audience. So this was this was the biggest part of the learning curve for me, talking to the audience and being like not just singing but like performing.
Yeah, I only imagine how difficult that would actually be.
It I mean, yeah, it was it was and still sometimes is um the hardest parts, because singing, you have your lyrics, you have the songs, it's automatic, but it's the interaction with people who are like, you don't know what kind of people you get, you don't know what kind of crowd you get, but you still have to give 200%, to give people the best time you can.
Uh, And what was your perception and reflection on the actual music industry itself?
It's difficult. It's definitely, um in every professions there's ups and downs, and the thing with the music industry is like it's so close to your heart and to your identity that it's much more, at least for me, it's much more than a job. It's like I went from having a job to having something much bigger. Like when I was working in an office, you do your hours, you do your extra hours very often, and then yeah, it's just a company, it's just a job. But when it's you pour your soul into creating something, and it's there's a big part of your personality, um that goes into it. There's a big part of your feelings, your history. um i I think everything that goes um positively impacts you very strongly, but everything that goes negatively also impacts you very strongly, and sometimes you have to just keep swimming.
That's so beautiful because yeah, I mean, I have so much admiration for lead singers. I mean, you are, as you said, like pouring your heart out, you're expressing yourself, and you're sharing the innermost workings of your being. And then, as you said, to be doing that and then making a living out of that, but you're making a living out of your art and like you as a human. And it's, I can imagine that would carry some vulnerability as well.
A lot, honestly. Because you're um you're sharing a lot, and you're often being judged for it in every kind of ways, not just negatively. It's like you're opening the door a little bit into your mind and your soul, and people are looking in and understanding it their own way. So um it's a very vulnerable place, and I feel like the more the more vulnerable I've allowed myself to be, the more I've connected to with people. So it's kind of it's it's hard to describe. It's kind of good in a very difficult way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel that over the time, because of this vulnerability and because of this vulnerability, do you feel that you have become more resilient
Mm,
to the negative, or do you feel that you have just learned how to process it in a different way?
both, I would say. There are things that don't really affect me the way they used to. For example, if I if I had a bad show many years ago, I would dwell on it. Like I would feel so bad. I would be like, people will think this, people will think that. Or if there was a bad comment on the internet, I would be completely down. And as you experience more bad shows or more comments on the internet, it kind of becomes, even if it's not right to like, I still don't understand why people think that it's okay to take someone down on the internet, but you learn that it's sort of part of the thing. Like, people will talk. There's never going to be any change to this, and you have to detach from it, because why would you care about the comment of someone you don't know, who don't doesn't know you, and you would not take advice from? So very often it's very it was very difficult, because you spend so much time crafting a song, an album, and everything, and then one comment can just like destroy everything you believed, if you let it. And and I think I've learned to just not give so much importance to it anymore, and also just understand that whatever I do, if I give my 100%, 200%, if there's a wrong note on stage, or if I forget my lyrics for one song or whatever, it's not the end of the world. So I think I've learned to care less, and also become more resilient to things like this.
Yeah, and I mean, it also sounds like they're showing yourself a lot more humility at the end of the day, because as you said, right, like you don't know this person, they don't know you, and it's something of like that nature is like it's a projection of somebody else's insecurities, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's still I mean, you're still a human being at the end of the day. You still have emotions, and as you said, you're brave enough to put yourself out there, and so
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, I've also learned to sort of read through the lines of those comments, because, for example, there are people who feel bad about their own musical career. Very often, if I click on the profile of someone who will say, your music sounds like this, you sound like that, you're horrible, blah blah blah, I'll click, and it's very often a person who has tons of musical videos that don't have the attention that they wish they would have. I'm like, okay, you don't like it because you wish you would be there. And so I'm trying to see see it from the other person's perspective, and be like, okay, this is why you feel like this, not because of me, but because of something that happens in your life, or something that you wish, or something you're unhappy with. So, and it's interesting, because when you really think about it, even though you put yourself out there, and there's social media, there's all the lyrics that are very personal, sometimes there's all the interviews, videos, whatever, the people who really truly know me are the people who have had conversations with me, like the people who are in my life. So someone who has an opinion, with this, like, there's going to be 10 opinions, with like 10 different people, 10 different opinions based on the same things that they've seen. I will meet a person, I will feel like I will feel a certain way about that person. You will meet the same person, you will feel a certain way based on your experience, your perception, and so on. So I think even though it's sometimes difficult to do this work, it's it's healthier to think this way and to kind of detach yourself and be like, okay, I do everything I can, I'm doing my best, and you know, the noise should be kept outside a little bit.
I mean, that's a beautiful word, detachment, right? Particularly in this case, because as you said, when one is doing their best, that's all we can ever really hope for. And as you
Right.
described, like, the alignment that you have created within your life and following and pursuing your dreams is so beautiful. It's such an honoring, and there is always going to be noise. So it's beautiful that you have those processes to be able to ultimately like show yourself the love and compassion that you deserve, right?
Yeah, and to try to give the same to others. That's also a thing that I I had a hard time understanding, because I would personally never, like, if there's a music I don't like, I would never be like, this is shit because
Yeah.
blah blah blah, because I don't believe this is good. I would just click next. But and this is the part that I was like, okay, I have to understand that not everybody has the same compassion or understanding or consideration, and this is okay. It's a world, and we need all kinds of all the colors of the rainbow.
That's beautiful. It's so true. It's so true. I'm glad you raised that point. So you spent 5 years with this band. There's been so much development. You've seen yourself, the contrast of how you started to where you kind of finished. Then, how did that 5 years, or how did that ending kind of happen within the band? Was it by choice? Was there any circumstances?
So one of the guys got a baby, uh another one, or both, did they both get a baby around the same time? I don't remember, but two guys are now parents, and we started, like, we got opportunities to tour, and we did it. And then the understanding that that like something that became clearer within the band was that it would be something to do every now and then when we can, but not a regular thing, because there were other priorities, jobs, families, and so on. And for me, and for also I think the bass player at the time, we're like, no, we want to do this, like we actually want to do this. And other opportunity came to the table, and we're like, I think I have to let this go. And both the bass player and I left, and I think the band officially is still going, but they haven't really continued after this. Just priorities shifted, and yeah, people got to raise little humans.
Oh, that's adorable. Nice to know that that inner fire was even burning brighter for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
We got a taste of what it was to tour, and I think around the same time, I went to Hellfest with some of, like, actually one of the guys from the band, and no, two of the guys from the band, and some other friends. And it's just this moment of, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be in an office. I want to do this.
Were you at
And yeah,
Hellfest just as a guest?
yeah, yeah. I was just there. We decided to take a trip there. We drove all the way. We were camping there, and we had the best time. And you're watching your favorite bands. I had like this wow moment watching Slipknot, and just thinking, I want to be on those stages. And there's no way I'm not gonna try.
That's so beautiful. That was a question I was going to ask. It's like, do you look at the stage and obviously appreciate the music, but just visualize yourself there?
Yeah, and I still do it. And it's funny because back then it was stages like Wacken, Summer Breeze, and so on. And now I've played those stages. So now I'm watching much bigger shows, and I'm like, okay, that's the goal now.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what was the transition like? So you've decided, okay, this is it. I'm going all in. I've had these experiences, a taste of the good life. Then, like, what happens next? How does it all align?
So I created some kind of transition because I didn't want to just jump without a safety net. So I quit my job because I had like a job in a school. It was very stable, 5 days a week. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit this and go into a more flexible thing. So I don't remember what I did first. I think first I was oh yeah, so I was doing oh my God, it was a mortifying job for me. I was going at the train stations or shopping centers, whatever, and I was trying to get people to donate money for animals. And like, I hate to bother people so much. So, and in a way, it kind of helped me being more comfortable with that and being more comfortable with asking what I want. Because right at that time, I was negotiating a contract with a record label, and I felt like I had much more confidence. But
Wow.
I was doing this because I could choose my schedule. So I could say, tomorrow I'm available, on Wednesday I'm not, this weekend I'm traveling, whatever. I mean, we were not working on the weekends, but like on Friday I have to travel for this show, whatever. So I had much more flexibility. So I could do this for very little money for just what I needed. I think at that time I was back at my parents' place, so it was okay. And then shortly, for a couple of months, I was working in a court um as a receptionist, um 1 or 2 days a week. So kind of I combined both um until I moved for 6 months to Austria. In Austria, I didn't need much for to make a living. I had a friend renting me an apartment for very little money. Very grateful for that. I was working at the Hard Rock Cafe. I was working in a school. I was coaching a few singing students, and I was starting to, develop both like my band, my Patreon, my merch, like everything that I could to create different sources of income and to slowly transition into being only a musician, which I did in 2020.
Wow. I was like pitching that, you've got the foundation from the early work experience and that kind of propped you up and put you in the right positions to be able to keep the momentum and create the foundation I mean, ultimately create sources of income. Then when it all came together and you were like full time, all right, this is it. I'm a musician. Uh, who were you playing with and where did that actually happen?
I was building Ad Infinitum, my band. I was still at that time playing in Raja Flight, which was a band in Switzerland I was in. And I had some tours lined up as either a backing singer or guest vocalist. Um, and so after this time in Austria, I moved to Denmark with my husband, then boyfriend, now husband. And so we're both musicians. So also, having the possibility to um, live together, have two incomes, also helped transitioning from having small jobs to support the music to doing only music.
Wow, that's amazing.
Obviously, he's much more established, so that also helped. I was still like at a very early stage of my both career and musician income at that time.
That's beautiful. Where did you both originally meet?
We met on tour. We met in the
Hey,
Netherlands, actually. He's from Denmark. I'm from Switzerland. We met in the Netherlands.
there you go. That's great. And so you're both on your own little tours, meeting up there. Was it kind of instantaneous, or did you just kind of form a connection and then go from there?
We met on the first day of the tour, and then we went on a few walks together, or we went to the bar together, and we had a little romance starting on the tour, and then eventually after the tour we met again, and the rest is history. We're married.
Wow, so beautiful, so beautiful. That's incredible. So you're living together, and was he a big support at this stage? He said he was further along in the way of development and his career. So he was a
Yeah, yeah.
big
So
influence and support.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's been established. I mean, he's done music for a lot longer than me because he has always known he would be a musician. He would be a drummer. So he from the very start he laid the path towards this. And um his band Amaranth has been established for I think 16 years now. So he had already everything figured out, and he's been very supportive of me figuring everything out, and moving countries like from Switzerland to Austria to Denmark. Yeah, that was also, being able to talk about things that I was experiencing that he already had experienced and figured out was a big help.
Wow. So would you say, like, looking at it now from a bit of an overview, would you say that you kind of had good flow and rhythm when you were actually figuring it out? Like, you sound like you can really put things together, manifest, and kind of join all the dots.
I think I figured out how to make it safe, um and how to feel safe. It's never You never feel 100% safe because of course you never know how the world is going, how music is going. Like you see, I moved to Denmark and then there's a global pandemic starting. So at that point I was like, okay, I was on tour. um I was actually on one of the biggest tour I had ever, like, no, definitely the biggest tour I had ever been on. I was playing at Rock Meets Classic, which was this huge event, mostly in Germany, with um, a full orchestra, a band, and superstars of rock. There was Alice Cooper, Robin Zender. So it's right at the moment I moved to Denmark. Um, I I was going on the biggest tour I had ever done with Rock Meets Classic, which is um, a symphonic orchestra, a band, and then a symphonic orchestra, a band, and then some guests. There was Alice Cooper, Robin Zander, Mother's Finest, um, guys from Thunder, Robert Hart, and so massive tour, mostly in Germany. And then the pandemic hits, and so everybody has to go home after 5 shows, and we don't know, like, how long it's gonna take. How long are we home? Are we gonna go on tour? I had another tour planned for, I think, a couple of months later, and I was like, okay, are we gonna go on tour? Little did we know that for at least a year we would not play a single show. So that was very nerve-wracking because you're like, okay, I quit everything. Now I'm just a musician. Like I'm not the musician plus. I'm doing just music. And this happens. So at first, the first reaction is nothing is going to work. We're not going to sell albums because we're not going to go on tour, because that's the way we know. We are not going to meet fans. We're not going to, like, everything is going to be on pause. But very clearly and very fast, we realized that since everyone was at home, everyone needed entertainment. So the album that we thought, okay, it's out and nobody will know about it, it took off in a very different way, and in a very unexpected way, because people were just streaming, supporting. They knew that artists could not tour, so they were like, let's buy the album, let's buy the vinyl, let's and we did some live streams. I already had my Patreon page, and people were so supportive that what we thought was a complete crush was actually the the opportunity to lay the foundation to pretty much everything for me at this point.
That's incredible.
Mm.
So then, because I mean, that time around the world was just so unpredictable. So you're kind of putting out that you're getting this instant call and response from the fans and the community. And so did that just encourage you to kind of dive deeper, share more, like kind of just navigate that whole time?
Yeah, so it really gave us the opportunity to create a deeper connection with the fan base. I did a lot online with Patreon. We did some live streams, um, and we did some live like online live events. I don't know if you remember, there were platforms that started at that time which you could upload a concert and fans could attend and buy merch and all that. So we did this with my band, and I started doing monthly live streams with Patreon. And so all these things that we did online, combined with the fact that people could not go to any events, really strengthened the relationship with the fans. And really, in my case, I feel like this is where I saw my core fan base being born.
Wow. What's that like performing a concert online?
So the way we did it was we pre-recorded it, because
Ah,
we wanted to be able to have a nice mix with the sound, nice editing. So we wanted to give the team the opportunity to perfect the content so that we would offer the best possible experience to people. Um, because also so much can happen during live streams, as we have experienced. So um, so yeah, we pre-recorded, and then when the live streams went online, we we were present in the chat. We did some little pre-release meet and greets, and so on. So so that was a very a very fun way to replace temporarily the shows.
when you were pre-recording, were you still talking to the audience, knowing that they're eventually going to hear it? But
No, we just performed the songs because we didn't want to pretend we were talking to someone. It would just not feel right.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Wow, so that's incredible. So it sounds like you really navigated that time so well, and as you said, like you really created and built the foundation. And what a connection for your fans! What an opportunity for your fans! That's so beautiful. So
Yeah, that
when
was that was that was really cool, and that was, I think, the best possible way to rebound from this incredible situation that we had never experienced before.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what was that moment like, or what was that, do you remember the time when you got the green light and whoever manager, whoever it may have been said, "Yeah, we're good to go."
Yeah, so our very first live concert after the pandemic was actually the very first live concert of my band. We played Rock Castle in Czech Republic. So that was very, very insane. We had this whole trip from Germany, which is where the band is officially based. We're like three of the guys in Germany. I'm in Denmark. We started our trip in Germany all the way to Czech Republic in a van. The van kind of broke down a little, and we could not drive fast. It was such an adventure. And then we played our first show, um, which was insane because for everyone it was one of the first shows ever after the pandemic. So everyone was extra excited to get the live shows back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the energy, the space, the freedom.
Yeah,
Was it,
insane.
did it feel like just like riding a bike? Was it like getting up on stage and knowing, wow, this is actually happening again?
Yeah, and for us as a band, since it was the first live show ever, there was a different, like there was a lot of unknown. There was a lot of um, anticipation. Um, Everything was brand new, and everything was also um, very. very emotional in the sense that, oh, we're finally getting back what was taken away by this pandemic, and at the same time, finally starting what we thought we would start in 2020.
Wow. That's remarkable, really. That's a lot of firsts, a lot of new things happening all at once in that moment.
Absolutely.
Wow. And so then from there, did it just pick right up? Did the momentum just carry?
Yeah, and it's difficult to say because we we were lucky enough to have this show, another show, and then a tour, which was a pretty big tour, which happened a few months later. Um, it was different though because everyone was going back on the road, and what felt like a momentum back in 2020, we had to sort of build on. Like it was not anymore the hype sensation, but more like, okay, now we are there. Now we need to do the hard work, and um, it was less of a we're on the rise and more like, okay, we're here now, and we need to build it higher because things completely shifted when live shows started again, and also things were so unstable because everyone wanted to go on tour. I remember it was very difficult to find buses, to find crew, like it. Yeah, so this was definitely a harder time than we expected.
That makes a lot of sense. Did you notice, just in like your experience and playing shows and things like that, did you notice a change after the pandemic within the crowd and the
I think people took like stopped taking for granted that we would always have live shows, and we're much more grateful to experience it. So I feel like people were super enthusiastic, super supportive. The crowds were very, very, very happy and grateful.
wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Have you seen also in your professional career a change in the dynamics of the crowd due to technology?
Well, there's much more phones up. Hmm. In the crowd themselves, um, not so much, because I really feel like when I started to tour was like when I really started to tour was really post pandemic. I had done a couple of tours before, so I didn't really have the opportunity to see the before or after in a proper way, the way people who have been touring for many years have done.
Well, that's I mean, I guess in that sense you don't know what you're missing out on kind of thing anyway. So it's just like it's your personal experience, which is
Yeah,
just beautiful.
yeah.
That's great. So so you've picked up, you're on the tour, you've done the tour, and then it's like, explain to me what's life as a full time musician back on the road, everything rocking and rolling. Like, how does that look, and is that hard to coordinate? Is there routine? Is there just knowing that for a period of time there's no routine and that's okay? Like, how do you navigate that?
Um, I think you adapt to it and you learn how to listen to your body, because when you're on tour, it gets like it takes a lot of energy. It's very draining because you have a lot of there's a lot of social experiences and there's not a lot of me time. So um you're very much uh on all the time until you're in your bunk in the tour bus. And so it's day after day performing, having those huge peak of adrenaline, and then it goes down, you go to your bunk and you have sound check, you have meet and greet, you have maybe a second meet and greet, you have um the show, and it's just like learning to be in a different place every day. So you have to every day relearn where things are, where is the bathroom, where is the catering, where and like, oh, okay, today we have that kind of food, or today we have like we need to find food because there's no catering at the venue. So it's a lot of you're I very often compare it to, you're a little doll and you're like, there's a kid playing with you and putting you there and putting you there, and you kind of have to adapt to wherever you're being put. There's a lot of very, very happy moments, and then there's a lot of moments where you have to really give a lot. So when you're home after this, it's a totally different dynamic, and there's different tasks that you not necessarily have the energy for on the road, and depending on how much time you have at home. What I've experienced was very often when I had lots of tours and lots of concerts back to back, or concert going home, I had very difficult periods where I felt like I was never landing. And I think I heard you really land when you have 3 weeks at home. Like that's when you get back into your rhythm. Except that for, I think the hardest year for me was maybe 2024 or 2023, where I never had 3 weeks at home. I was on tour, then was one concert here, one concert there, then back on tour. Then I was touring with two bands or three bands at the same time, like this same year. So it was extremely difficult because there were all these things that you still need to do, like the accounting, the emails, whatever. But you never really have the time to just find the energy to do everything. Like to just, okay, now I have a day to take care of all the unanswered emails. You don't have a day because you're on the road, you're on the plane, whatever. So that was very stressful for me for an entire year, because it's like tour, okay, no time for recording. So when I'm home, I'm just gonna squeeze a recording here, then I'm gonna do like the taxes and the accounting for this and the emails for that, and then back on the road, and then your plane is canceled and you're like, oh my god, like little things start to weigh a lot heavier on you because you'd never have this reset.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine you just come off stage and then start doing the bookkeeping.
Oh my.
So, but I mean, just like reflecting back on that moment where you said, like, this is my path. I don't want a normal job. This is this. And like, obviously you're taking all of that. I mean, that is a lot for a human being to process, to experience, to then manage. And so, even in those moments of challenge, do you just get to sit with yourself and look around and go, this is actually still my life?
Yeah, I've had a lot of those moments where I was remembering those years in the office and being like, I was there and I was dreaming of where I'm now. And this was very, very important for me because I had those moments where I like, I just want to be home. Like you're on tour, it's the third tour, there's been already 12 planes. Yeah, and you're like, okay, but wait, I'm doing this. I've been dreaming of this, and there's lots of people who are dreaming of this, and you're actually there. And there were many of those moments where I was standing backstage right before starting a show and being like, okay, look, you're standing backstage. There's like a couple of thousand people who are waiting, and you're gonna sing, and that's your job, and you get to do this, and you get to visit Acropolis in Greece, and you get to visit this botanical garden in Phoenix, and you get to go to Central Park or whatever, and to have a pizza in New York, and to like there are so many things that we get to do and that we get to call our job, that I think those are the moments you need to just engrave in your mind and remember and be like, this is my job as well. Like I get to do this. There's all the stress, but there's all this as well.
That's magical, magical. Just out of curiosity, what's it like too? Because obviously you've come up and you said you've stepped into this whole industry and everything's going well. What's it like being on tour or playing a big concert and like seeing recognizable artists that you used to look up to or see, and like now you're not only playing on the same stage but seeing them backstage? So how is that experience?
It's it's funny. I had different experiences with this. I had experiences where, just grateful to be a part of this now, and to be talking to people I used to be like listening to, or actually very interesting thought that just came to my mind. I'm going on tour in February with Charlotte Vessels. And Charlotte, and she probably doesn't know this, but when I was starting to perform, like at the very, very beginning, and I was like, okay, how do I act on stage? How do I talk to people? I was watching YouTube videos where she was performing, among other people, where she was performing and she was talking to the audience, and she was like, the way she was moving and the way she was talking and her confidence and everything. So, and now one of the people who inspired me, I'm going on tour with as her direct support for her own headline tour. And so those are these moments where you see how far you've come, because I feel like it's so easy to be like, oh, but I'm not Taylor Swift yet. No, of course you're not, because it's, you know what I mean? But like, because you always look forward, like, what's my next goal? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to play? How many people do I want to play for? Like, what's the audience that I want to play for? And it's very easy to forget where you were before, and to be to to be grateful for the path that you've already walked, because you walked one step at a time. So it's difficult to sometimes see all the steps you've walked. And I think sometimes it's paralyzing to only look forward, because you're like, but I'm not there yet. Yeah, but you are where you wanted to be when you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when do you like tone down the momentum? Because it's the momentum of looking forward that's gotten you where you are. But then you're like, I want to savor this. This is, as you said, a place that I once dreamt of.
Yeah. And
Wow.
it's very easy to get greedy with, I want to go further, I want to go further, I want to do more, and always feel like you're not doing enough, you're not being enough. And this actually not being enough has been one of my biggest problems, like always feeling like I need to do more, I need to be more to be enough.
Yeah, it's a funny, concept, because it's like, how are you measuring that?
You cannot. And that's the thing, that's the trap, that's the big trap, because you always look at where you want to be. You always look at someone bigger than you. You always look at someone playing bigger stages, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be happy when I'm there.
Exactly. But then it's like that question. It's like, well, I once wasn't here, so am I happy now that I am here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And the whole process should also be important rather than the destination. But it's very easy to say, and it's very hard to actually like apply.
Yeah, I mean, because as we said, like, you don't feel like you're going to lose your edge. But would you say, like, without generalizing, would you say that the music industry itself is quite supportive?
It's a wild jungle. I think I mean, there's a lot of very supportive people. I'm very glad that I know a lot of very kind, very supportive, very friendly people. But the music industry as a whole, it's not a friendly place. It's like it's full of of challenges and disappointments, and you have to I always say that there's sort of a natural selection that happens, because you have to go through a lot to get somewhere. And there's a lot of people who are like, you know what, it's good as a hobby, because I'm having fun, I'm playing a few shows a year, I'm not willing to go through all the other things. And so far I've gone through all these things, and I'm still very motivated, so that's good. But we talk about it so often with my bandmates, and we're like, we're going the extra mile. Yep, we are. It's there's there's a lot of good people, there's a lot of bad people, there's a lot of very selfish people, there's a lot of business, like pure business. It's like, we could help you, but our goal is to make money. Or and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of bands, there's a lot of artists, and the people who get hurt are not necessarily the people who have the, you know, the most passions and skills. So there's a lot of frustrations as well when you're working your ass off, and you see that there are some shortcuts being taken, but you don't want to take those. And there's like, you have to um question how much you're willing to do, and how much you want to be true to yourself versus how much you want to be a business person. And this is why we have managers and agents, because very often it's very hard to be the shark, you know, and you need to have a shark to navigate through those dark waters sometimes.
Well, beautifully said. I mean, if you think, you know, from the outside looking in, it's quite remarkable how there are so many people who'd benefit, but also work off of one artist or a multitude of artists. You know, like you think about it, like that system, like let's just say in a single performer, and how many jobs that creates off that one artist.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting, and it's sometimes um we I think we can take a lot of pride in seeing like how many people get to experience a tour because we had one dream. You know,
Yeah.
like all the people who come with us, like I really love, for example, to take the to talk about the memory of my band going to Grand Canyon, because we went there, the driver, the photographer, the merch guy, the sound guy, we were all together at Grand Canyon because one day we decided to create a band. And I mean, this is really cool because it just, okay, it creates jobs as well, of course, because I mean, we all have to pay the bills, but it also creates some insane adventures for everyone, and it's really cool.
Definitely, absolutely. And I mean, I've interviewed guests on the podcast before, other musicians, and from their stories, they were saying that they had really quite dark and negative experiences with managers, people that they trusted.
Ah.
And
Oh, we've had both. We've had good and bad experiences. There are
which,
people who really want to push you as an artist. There are people who really want to, who have an understanding of how the industry works, but also how it works to be an artist. And you have people who have like, for example, the manager we have right now with my band, he is an artist. He has worked at labels. He has worked um, as crew. Uh, he's, well, a manager as well. So he has really seen all the sides of it, and he has a lot of empathy for what we're doing because he's also a musician and he knows how it feels. But we've had another experience with a manager who was more about, you know, the profits, the money, and we've had also similar experiences with some former agents, booking agents, and we're like, but does that make sense for us, or does that make sense for the money, you know? So it's all about finding the right people for you. For me personally, I like to work with people who have empathy and who understand how it feels to be on both sides.
yeah, I mean, very good navigation. I mean, you know, to go back to that vulnerability piece, it's like you're already so vulnerable, putting yourself out there as an artist, as a creative, and then you're trusting people to hopefully help guide you on creating this dream and making it a reality. And then, you know, sometimes, you know, it can be one of those things where you're like, when you get so swept up in the dream, it's like, who do I trust and how do I trust? And of course, there's so many lessons in amongst that, but it still ties into the creation of your dream and reality.
Yeah. Um, and it's very hard. I mean, when it comes to booking agents, we went through a few people, and I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying it didn't work for us. And it's part of the process to create your team with the label, the agents, the management, the crew, the musicians, um, and because we are all investing more than 8 hours a day and five days a week into this, it's nights, it's days, it's weekends. It's like, okay, we cannot take vacations here because there's an opportunity for a tour. It's a lot of ourselves that we are investing in this, and we are betting on each other. Like we literally trust each other with our future, because one person deciding to for example, if today I tell my band, listen, I'm gonna move to a tropical island and sell cocktails, they'll be like, okay, but we invested many years into this. What are we doing now? Like, it's not like I'm not replaceable, but it would change a few things. So we really built a team that we can trust for every aspect of what we're doing, and to feel confident about this life decision, which is different than, okay, I'm working in a company right now, but I could be working in another company tomorrow. It's like it's part of our identity.
So true. So true. And I just said, like, when you're giving every part of yourself into the offering that you have for the world, it's like that's not measurable in any way, other than just the experience within itself, by the sounds of it. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
absolutely.
And Melissa, it has been absolutely phenomenal listening to your story and listening to how far that you have chased and continue to chase your dreams, and even with the foundations you set early on, but then having that full trust and really leaning in. I really thank you for taking the time to share your story with us here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a nice conversation, and I apologize for the technical issues. I thought I would bring you to the garden because it's a beautiful weather today, but the heat wave got in the way.
Perfectly all right. This brings us to the second half of the podcast, which is your medicine. So, just reflecting back on your personal story, what do you think has been your medicine or your greatest teaching within your story?
The greatest teaching, so the biggest lessons that I've learned as a musician.
Yeah.
I think a big one for me was following my gut feeling, um, trusting my instincts. I think I built a good understanding of what I'm doing and what I need to do, but very often I've doubted myself and listened to either the voice of doubt or other people's opinion and regretted it. And I think really trusting what I do and how I feel about things, and how I feel about people as well, because we just talked about it, was a big lesson, for both my personal development and the decisions we made with my bands or projects, um to make decisions that make sense for us and that feel like in alignment with where we want to go.
Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Melissa, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story and your medicine within that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Thank you very much. What a wholesome story. I really enjoyed sitting down and hearing Melissa share how in the early days in the family trips in the south of France, and just picturing the excitement and jumping in the car, regardless of the motion sickness, and getting to spend that quality time with the family unit, and just as she said, going to the arcades and eating the food. I imagine as the story unfolded, I just pictured that as a foundation of hope, expression, and exploration, and how just that little bit of early travel or openness can really leave a mark in a beautiful way on an individual, and kind of it kind of showcased that the world is smaller, and that there is incredible opportunities out there, and beautiful that I think that reflecting on it, hearing those words, the stable job, and creating that stability, and it's often described also too as like something to fall back on. And I mean, in theory it's so powerful, and in practice it works too. But I think that sometimes when that dream is so big, or sometimes you don't allow it to be as big as what it can be, I mean, it can also get in the way a little bit. But it's undeniable that the right foundation can set you up, but it's also hard to know whether what you're doing is actually setting you up for the future or whether it's actually taking you off your path. And I guess that's to be revealed later. And it is interesting as you're further along the journey, how you look back and go, oh, wow, I didn't realize how that was actually shaping me or that was providing me with new teachings and skills to be able to apply to the bigger picture and the bigger dream. And I love that moment where, because of that event that happened also too, it was confirmation that if I choose the other path, even though I'm here because I'm trying to set myself up for that path, that that other door is closed. It's completely closed, and there is two completely different lives and two different worlds that I would be entering or choosing to. So to really double down on your dream, but then, I think, as Melissa said, that safety net's important, right? Because it gives you the confidence and the knowing that you can swing on that trapeze and let go. Because there's a moment where you let go. And hearing her moment of letting go and fully committing and then rolling straight into the pandemic, it's like I couldn't even imagine, because the world had no idea what was going on. Nobody had a clue about what was coming next. And seeing the impact that it left on that particular industry, the music industry, the arts industry, the scene, everything, it was a really quite an individual ride, and so wonderful to hear that there was so much support and deeper connection with the fans. I mean, what an opportunity. I don't think, if you think about that, that doesn't come around every day. I mean, neither do pandemics, but to maximize it in a way of strengthening a bond and connecting with people is really quite unique and so special. And I see the longevity of that. Interesting too, like coming out of the pandemic, the green light, ready to perform, but performing for the first time with that band and so many firsts happening at once, and just that rush and excitement of being out and back in the world. I mean, even that was, there was a bit of fumbling around at that stage. No, I don't think, no matter where you were in the world, because it was a readjustment period, but to be back and then kind of back it up with a tour as well, and be back right in the mix is just so special. And, music is such a universal way of connecting. And when I've sat with other musicians and they've shared their stories, it is definitely a whole nother world, from the outside and the way that we perceive it to then the realities of the internal, and how that would be to actually navigate, because it is your dream as a musician. And what Melissa said about, you give everything, it's so much more than just 8 hours of work. That's not even possible. It's everything. It's every part of your being and your soul, because you're performing, you're sharing, you're exposing, you're holding, and you're also creating a organism that other people are connected to, and their lives are affected because of that too. And I just think that, music's a movement, and which is so interesting, because even in a moment there can be, you know moments can be so profound that would never be experienced again because of the connection within the music. And it's such a moving target. But to hear Melissa's story, it sounded like she really reached a point of groundedness through not only personal experience but also inner reflection, sitting with what it is she actually needs and listening to the body. And I think that is truly quite remarkable, because that would, I imagine, be one of the more toughest spaces to be able to find that, because of the movement, because of the uncertainty, because of the variables that just naturally would be coming up. So it was really quite an honor to be able to hear such a grounded, insightful, and genuine perspective on a European musician who has had a chance, who connected early days with a stable life and then disconnected and really lent in and followed her passion and her love, and now is sharing her music and offerings with the world. So very beautiful podcast. And I think, Melissa, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to hear and for you to share your story. So there you have it, how one decision has made an impact on the world of music. If you would like to check out Melissa's wonderful world, check out her Instagram at Melissa Bonny. If you like the podcast and haven't done so already, please support the channel by either liking, subscribing, rating, or just telling a friend. Those little things go a very long way. Also, be sure to head over to my Instagram at Taylor_Jardine to check out all the work I do in the mental health space. My name is Taylor Jardine, and this is Your Story, Your Medicine. Thank you for taking the time to listen.